In Guy Clark's song Dublin Blues, he starts with the lines, I wished I was in Austin, in the Chili Parlor bar, drinking Mad-dog
Margaritas, and not caring where you are.
That's a song that I've added to my set list. I haven't played it out yet, but when I found out I was going to Austin, we went to Austin for a trade show a couple weeks ago that Deb was working at as a photographer and I was doing some work with as well. That's a whole nother story. Played music out there, which was fun. We were north of Austin, and when I knew I was going to Austin, I knew I wanted to visit the Texas Chili Parlor. And the Texas Chili Parlor is a dive bar right in downtown near the Capitol. And we did make it over there, and that story was kind of fun. I want to tell you about that. So we were up in Round Rock, which is about 30 minutes north of Austin, and we just had not had a chance to get away. I kept wanting to get down to Austin and told Deb, I just want to get to Austin, go to the Chili Parlor bar and have a Mad-dog Margarita. It's kind of my Guy Clark mecca. A lot of things just were coming up that, we were running errands and working at the show, and we didn't have the rental car, and so we had to wait until it was available. So finally on a Sunday we were going to go, and we ended up going with my friend Emiko and her partner and another guy named Mike, who's another performer, and made it down to Austin. But here's kind of how it worked out. I had read that the Texas Chili Parlor was open until 10 p.m. on Sunday. I was wrong. So first we went to barbecue, which was good. Probably not something Deb and I would. I don't know if we'll have to have that experience again. It was wild. We went to this very popular barbecue place, and the just amount of meat that was placed in front of it was wild. No salads, which we're not used to. So we're very California in that sense. And once again, the food was very good, but we walked out going, okay, that probably doesn't happen again for another 10 years or something like that. We left there around 9:20, 9:30 or so, and just a couple blocks away was the Texas Chili Parlor. And so what's funny about this bar is it's a dive bar right by the state capitol. So when you get into the neighborhood, you could drive right by it because there's all these new modern buildings. If you don't pay attention, it's just this little dusty looking wooden structure that's surrounded by all these modern buildings near the Capitol. And my understanding is they just refused to sell the place and let it be developed, which is great. So it's got a lot of history. It was used in Quentin Tarantino's movie Death Proof with Kurt Russell, I think. And I've only watched scenes of it. I haven't watched the movie yet. It's so Quentin Tarantino, it's hilarious. The whole premise of the movie is kind of a slasher movie, but not using a knife. He uses a car to kill women, and then ultimately some women come after him and kill him. That's the gist of the plot. Very simple, very Quentin Tarantino. Weird characters and in a weird setting, of course. So I think the Texas Chili Parlor worked really well for that. We got there around 9:40, and there were people inside the bar, and nobody sitting at any of the tables that we could see. They were all sitting at the bar. And when I opened the door, the bartender was right there, a guy named Brenden. Really cool. But he told us, hey, we're closed. And Deb said, oh, he's been talking about this place for the last, couple months. Just this is all he wanted to do when he got to Austin, is come here and have a Mad-dog Margarita. And I said, look, big fan of Guy Clark. Guy Clark sent me is kind of what people sometimes say. And Brenden said, he goes, you're not looking for food? And we go, no, just a Mad-dog Margarita. And he goes, okay, come inside, which was really, really sweet of him. And so we sat down at the table, and he went about making my Mad-dog Margarita. And when I saw him walking over, the waitress who was counting out for the night, I could see that she was at a table just taking care of, checks or whatever, counting cash out, whatever it was, and closed, they were closed up. And but she got up and went over to the screen, the register, and said, do you want me to ring this up? And he goes, no. And he walked over and said, on the house, and he set it down, which once again just makes the story even better. It was really cool. So we sat there, and I drank my margarita, and we talked a little bit. I checked out the place, went and used the restroom. once again, such a dive bar. A wonderful, wonderful place. And then we went over and talked to Brenden at the bar before we left. I brought him a tip and returned the glass to him so he wouldn't have to pick it up off the table. And then we just sat there at the bar and he dispensed with bartender wisdom, and we learned a little bit about his life. We're all kind of the same age, and we just had a really great time. And I told him when I left, I said, I know it shouldn't mean as much as it does, but you really made my trip. I really appreciate it. And he was like, no problem. When you're back in town, come on in and, sit down, maybe have a bowl of chili. It was really a great trip. One other thing I have to show you is something we saw in Round Rock while we were there. We came flying in. We were delayed actually because of thunderstorms, and actually were delayed flying out because of thunderstorms. So there was weather while we were there. And one day there was a thunderstorm that came through and we were out running some errands. And at one point we were coming back and it was late afternoon and we were traveling eastbound. So away from the sunset, and the clouds stretched off to the west quite a ways, but then you could see clear sky in the distance. And it just so happened that the sun dropped below the clouds in the west, so that as it went below those clouds, it shined up against all the cloud cover, turned everything this bright red. And as we were driving away, we didn't really realize this was going on behind us. As we were driving away, we see some shape in front of us, and it wasn't windy enough or weathery enough for there to be a tornado, but I watched some tornado videos from time to time, and Deb was looking at it going, what is that? We saw this shape going up into the sky, this kind of oddly colored, kind of grayish shape in the darkness of the cloud cover in front of us. So the storm was kind of in front of us, moving away, it seemed, slightly. But either way, we saw this shape, and Deb said, what is that? Is that a tornado? Nothing in me thought it was an actual tornado, except that I was going, I can't figure out what this is. And we were turning right there, and I was looking up there going, that's really wild looking. But as we turned the corner, we saw what it was. It was a rainbow. And so the sun had dropped below the clouds, and suddenly this rainbow appears that's red in color, and kind of a secondary rainbow. You could see the colors of the rainbow, but they were very faint and all tinged red. And as we came around the corner, we started driving down this road, and Deb's like, you got to pull over. It looked like a dome. It looked like this structured dome sitting in front of us. So this is some strange end of storm, end of day rainbow in Round Rock, Texas. You can see that sky's cleared up over here and it's all orange where the sun's going down over there. And because of that, got this wild rainbow. Really wild, but kind of a cool experience. It was just something that we experienced while we were out there that was beautiful. And anyways, that was our trip to Austin, our trip to Round Rock, and then ultimately to Austin. And hopefully you found it interesting, but just wanted to share that with you. And we'll be back at you with another video soon. See ya.
Well, I wished I was in Austin. In the Chili Parlor bar, drinking Mad-dog Margaritas and not caring where you are.